Chapter 3, Ethics in Public Speaking. Ethics is central to public speaking because it is through communication that our ideas about right and wrong or good and bad are formed. It involves making decisions about right and wrong within dilemma. Public speakers make ethical choices when preparing and delivering a speech. Ethical standards are moral principles that are a set of rules that we abide by that make us good people and help us choose the right from wrong. Wallace claims that ethical standards of communication should place emphasis upon the means used to secure the end rather than upon achieving the end itself. Ethical communication is the exchange of responsible and trustworthy messages determined by our moral principles. So ethical speaking, credible public speakers are open and honest with their audiences. They must actively avoid plagiarism and remain committed to honesty and integrity at all costs. So what is plagiarism? Anytime you pass off someone's work as your own or neglect to cite the source for your information, that is plagiarism. Global plagiarism is the most obvious form. It transpires when the speaker presents a speech that is not their own work. Patchwork plagiarism occurs when one patches together bits and pieces from one or more sources and represents the end results as their own. And incremental plagiarism, or when most of the speech is the speaker's original work, but quotes or other information have been used without being cited. So I've noticed this in a lot of outlines, where you use sources, you cite the source at the works cited page at the end, but you're citing exactly what is in someone else's work in your speech, but you're not giving it credit. So if you're citing exactly what it says in someone else's speech, then you would say, as found in blank journal article, blah, 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 blah. You cite where you got the source if you're quoting it exactly. If you're pulling ideas from a source, you would quote it in the works cited page. If it's exactly, then you have to cite within the text. So ethical speakers are not required to cite commonly known information. However, any information that isn't general knowledge must be orally cited during the speech. Cite sources properly to support speech material. You can paraphrase a sentence or a string of sentences that shares learned information in your own words, or quote directly any sentence or string of sentences that shares the information. Provide enough information and support material so that your audience can clearly find the source, and provide written, oral, and visual citations, even with your visual aids, anytime you use other sources. Diversity. With ethical public speaking, promote diversity. Consider your audience and your context. Use both sexes in your hypotheticals. Encourage diversity in races, socioeconomic status, and other demographics. Avoid sexist language. Use we language to unite the speaker and the audience. Avoid hate language. And consider social awareness. Recognize the important issues that affect society and help educate listeners by introducing ideas of radical gender, racial, gender, or cultural identity. Ethical listening is one who actively listens and interprets shared material and analyzes the content for speaker effectiveness. Effective listening can only occur when we're actually attending to the message, we're paying attention to the message. And ethical feedback includes a descriptive and explanatory response to the speaker. So ethical feedback is when you've exhibited ethical listening and effective listening. You've listened very carefully to the message. You're analyzing the message for credibility, for trustworthiness, for accuracy, and then based on all of that, you can provide ethical feedback. Every time we give a speech, anytime you're sharing information publicly, you have a responsibility. Your responsibility is that you're sharing accurate information, that your source material is valid, it's unbiased, it's clearly cited, and that you are clearly explaining to your audience this information using all of this body of research that you've pulled in to help substantiate your claims. It's important that you consider the arguments that you're making, like we've talked about in previous chapter, that you're providing your audience valid arguments with valid conclusions, and that when you communicate to your audience, they can trust the words coming out of your mouth, that you've done the legwork, that you've supported and researched the information that you're sharing, and that you've given rights, you've given acknowledgement to any sources that you have pulled from.